It's such a joy to be here. Thank you so much to our Karthikeyanji, all of the beautiful, dedicated team here of PMC and all of the organizers. We're at a very interesting time in history. We are the most distracted, the most depressed, the most anxious, highest rates of suicidal tendencies. We are the most addicted, the most disconnected, the most lonely. And there's a historic, unprecedented surge in people starting to meditate. Meditation is truly the answer to that which ails us. And I'll talk about this, but it's important to just begin with this understanding. It's not my meditation over here and my action over here. It's how my meditation weaves through my family life, my career life, every minute, every moment of my life. So if anyone is sitting here wondering how you're going to balance meditation and your other life, get that idea out of your mind right away, because it's not about filling things in. It's not like a thali where you say, acha itna dal hona chahiye, itna sabji, kam se kam ek roti. It's not about fitting things in. Our meditation is that actually infuses, informs, governs every other aspect of our life. It's the who of who we are as husbands, as wives, as mothers, as fathers, as daughters, as sons, as friends, as employers, as employees, as neighbors, as citizens on planet Earth. Throughout most of history, much of the world, particularly the Western world, has developed tools to understand life by looking outward. Telescopes, life in outer space. Microscopes, life that I can't see. But India, from ancient times, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, developed a science of looking in. Not instead of looking out, but with the deepest awareness, as our scriptures remind us. Yatha pinde, tatha brahmande. As is the individual, so is the Supreme. Or as we say more colloquially, jaise drishti, vaise shrishti. As is my sight, so is the creation. So this science was not developed to be instead of or separate from the outer world. It was developed to help us access the very instrument through which we understand and move and act and impact in the outer world. India gave us, our rishis, our sages, our yogis gave us a map of the mind, a map of consciousness, a way of understanding that. If you look at ancient religious traditions, the majority of them were focused on how do we make God happy? What will please God? India gave us a spiritual tradition that said, how do I know the self? Because in knowing the self, I will know God. Aham Brahm Asmi, Tattvam Asi, Soham. It turned us inward, even for the understanding of the divine. I came to India. I won't go too much into my story, but just to anchor it for a moment. I came to India 30 years ago. In September of 1996, as a 25-year-old PhD student, I had graduated undergraduate with a degree in psychology from Stanford University. I was then getting a PhD in psychology, pediatric neuropsychology. I grew up in Los Angeles, quite literally in Hollywood, hence the Hollywood to the Himalayas title of my memoir. And I had what on the outer level looked like everything. If you had looked at me, you would have said, uske paas sab kuch hai. And yet, what we know as meditators is, sab kuch is not really sab kuch. I had it all. But I had no idea who I was. I was an A+ student, getting A's on all of the exams. Could tell you everything the teacher asked and more. But I had no idea who I was. I had no idea what my life meant. I certainly had no idea about the divine. I lived in a state that so many of us know so well, of anxiety, of tension, of a false identification that was based on the physical body, what it looks like, where it's from, what it can do, how well it succeeds. And based on the history, where I've been, what I've done, what's happened to me. And so I suffered, like we all suffer. I came to India at 25 with a backpack on what I thought was going to be just a very short adventure trip in the midst of my PhD program. But I had such an extraordinary, powerful spiritual experience standing on the banks of Ganga that it transformed my life, and I stayed. But instead of going more into my story, I want to mention what it did, which was it brought me from what I call the Hollywood way of thinking to the Himalayan way of thinking. And this is what meditation gives us. And then I'll go a little bit more into the actual meditation around the world and what it's offering us. But I suffered because I was in what I call a Hollywood way of thinking. That sadly is no longer only in Hollywood. It's now kind of pervasive all over the world. And that way of thinking says you are your body. You are what it looks like. You are its size, its shape, its color, its race, its religion. You are how it measures up to standards of beauty, of success, of intelligence, of worthiness. That is who you are. And so we suffer. We suffer feeling not enough. We suffer all kinds of complexes. And we bring suffering onto others because if I'm only this body, well, then I better have more. Like I don't have enough yet. Not enough wealth, not enough power, not enough popularity, not enough success, not enough things. So I better grab more, which means we compete with others. We oppress others, we harm others, we steal, we lie. We grab and hoard, we harm the planet. The Himalayan way of thinking, which is what meditation gives us, whether you're sitting in the Himalayas or you're sitting in New York City or Paris or Tokyo or Delhi or wherever you may be. What it gives us is the awareness that you have a body, but you're not the body. You are soul. You are spirit. You are source. You are consciousness. And what that does is it removes the suffering. It is a journey from suffering to the end of suffering. India calls it, India's diagnosis of the suffering, is avidya. Very simple. Lack of knowledge, lack of awareness, lack of wisdom, lack of truth. This ignorance that says you are that identification. And the cure? So the diagnosis is avidya. The cure is meditation. Very simple. Sit down. Ask yourself, who am I? Ko-hum. So-hum. Come back to the self. Meditation dehypnotizes us. A lot of us think it's just about relaxation, stress relief. That's great. That's a nice byproduct. But that's not what the science was given to us for. Our rishis and our sages were not saying, "Hey, calm down for God's sakes." Dhyan karo. It wasn't the antidote to just stress and tension. It was the antidote to avidya and the suffering that arises from the avidya. We are hypnotized. We are hypnotized by our culture, by our society, now by media and social media. And we're hypnotized also just by the nature of the human mind and maya, long before we had any devices to help hypnotize us. And so meditation pulls us out of that hypnosis and actually shows us the truth. So it's not just about relaxation, it's about sanity. It's about truth. It's about awakening. India gave us the guidebook from the Manduka Upanishad to Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, the Yoga Vashishta, to so many of our scriptures that have given us detailed. I'm not talking just theory, but I'm talking maps of consciousness. Here are the states of awareness. Here is the way that we work with the mind to free ourselves of the games of the mind. Because these days, as we eradicate almost all of that which killed us 100 years ago, things from bad water, bad food, rat-borne illnesses, mosquito-borne illnesses, bacteria, now we have antibiotics. As we've eradicated so much of that, we're still sick. But most of us are sick because of what's going on in our mind and then in our mind-driven lifestyle. We're so distracted. There was a study from Harvard University that said that we are 47% of the time distracted. And that was a study almost 10 years ago. So now it's just gotten worse. Half the time, we're not even present. We're distracted. And I want to give you actually one of my favorite studies on distraction, just to help you understand how severe the problem is. The average amount of time, we know that the average attention span is now about 46 seconds. But the average amount of time that the average worker in our average work environment works before being distracted, whether by their phone, whether by an incoming email or notification, whether by something buzzing or beeping or blinking or vibrating, the average amount of time. Guess how long? Guess. Any ideas? Average amount of time average worker gets to work before they're distracted? 20 seconds. Okay, it's actually better than you've guessed. It's 3 minutes. It's 3 minutes, which tragically sounds like an awful long time. But here's the incredible part. So in 1 hour of working in such a way that you are distracted every 3 minutes, in 1 hour, our IQ points drop by 10 points in an hour. Okay, we are 10 IQ points stupider at the end of an hour of working like that than we were at the beginning of the hour. But now here's for me my favorite part of this study. If we did no work at all, and by work I don't even necessarily mean something at your job. You could be sitting at home reading a book. You could be writing a book. You could be reading poetry. You could be writing poetry. But whatever we're doing that we are focused on. So 1 hour of being interrupted every 3 minutes, our IQ drops 10 points. Now, if we did no work at all, and all we did was sit at our desk and take drugs, get high for an hour, our IQ points would drop by 5 points in an hour. Now, what that means is that our current way of living and working is making us twice as stupid as if we actually did nothing at all but sit around and get high. Now, you imagine what is happening to the quality of our minds. Because here's the thing. We don't have to be able to pay attention only to get our work done. Or only to finish a book. Every single thing in life that matters. And forget meditation for just a moment. I'll come back to it in 1 minute. For 1 minute, forget meditation. Every other thing in life that matters. Having a conversation with your loved ones. Your spouse, your parents, your kids. Solving a problem. Like, hey, climate change, poverty, lack of water, war. We've got problems to solve. If we cannot focus and we cannot pay attention and we are losing IQ points by the minute, not only are our own lives growing more and more meaningless by the day, but we are quite literally shooting ourselves in the foot and depriving ourselves of the possibility of actually solving the problems in our world. So meditation is that gives us our mind back for our lives and for that which we're going to bring to the world. It gives us the breath. It tells us just have one conscious breath. One breath in which you are aware and mindful. The breath is the only way we have, the only bridge of linking from our conscious nervous system to our autonomic nervous system, that which happens automatically, our heart rate, our blood pressure, our digestion, our reproductive systems, our circulatory systems. The breath is the only access we have to change the very way that our bodies are functioning. It's our only bridge to our own nervous system. So if you're feeling frazzled, stressed, distracted, restless, can't sleep, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, our breath is the one bridge to that autonomic nervous system. It also gives us access to our brains, because I'm sure that in this conference, you're going to have scientists who will come up and show you how meditation changes our brain. So I won't use my time to do that, other than to just say that I'm not talking about research being done in yoga studios. I'm talking about research being done at the top research-based academic institutions across the world, showing us that it changes us structurally, it changes us chemically, it changes the connections between the neurons, it changes the very pattern of how our brain operates. And as we get new connections, as we build literally more brain matter, because it literally grows our brain, particularly in this prefrontal cortex, which is what teaches us how to plan our lives. Anybody ever find themselves at the end of the day going, I was busy all day long, but I didn't do one thing I had planned to do in the morning? Anybody ever have that experience? Right? We get up in the morning and we're like, today I'm going to do. And at the end of the day, we look back and we're like, I didn't nap. I didn't give myself a mani-pedi. Where did the time go? What did I do? Strategy, implementation, planning. Basic skills for a happy, meaningful, successful life. Prefrontal cortex. Anybody find themselves in situations where you say to a loved one or even a stranger, or you act in ways, you lose your temper, and later you're like, that wasn't me. And you go back and you apologize and you say, well, to mera matlab nahi tha. I didn't mean it. Well, if you didn't mean it, why'd you say it? Who else is in there? Right? We say, it wasn't me. Well, if it wasn't you, who was it? The ability to have control. Not a white-knuckle death grip, but the ability to be in charge, consciously in charge. What I think, what I say, how I live, how I spend my time. Prefrontal cortex. Meditation. Literally. Not only improves the function of it, the flow of oxygen to it, but it actually increases it in size. We are growing brain cells. We are growing connections. It gives us also health in the body, meditation does. During COVID time, we had so many doctors coming online going, don't worry if you can't get out there jogging. Do yoga at home and meditate. It increases your immunity. We don't have time for me to go into all of the science of how that works, but look it up. It's all available online. Meditation actually improves our physical health. Whether we look at our immune system, whether we look at so many functions, it's all coming from the brain. However, and this is what I want to use my last 2 minutes on. However, these days, like yoga, like Ayurveda, like so much of our spiritual tradition, meditation is getting shortchanged. It's being packaged and sold just as relaxation, stress relief, lower your blood pressure. And that's great. It's wonderful. It's like if you get into yoga to lose weight, no problem. But don't leave just because you've lost the weight. Don't stop meditating just because your blood pressure is now at a good rate. Meditation was given to us to access the freedom, the only freedom that matters, of being able to grab that sakshi, that witness, that consciousness, that awareness. Freedom is not about being able to do whatever I want. Freedom is not being a slave to the games of my mind, telling me to do things I don't want to do. Meditation frees us of that as we access that awareness. Who's the one watching? I'm angry. Who knows that? Who's watching it? Who's aware? As we access that, it frees us. It frees us from the hold of the emotion itself. It frees us from the reaction. It frees us from the identification. It shows us, meditation shows us who we are. It shows us that our suffering, what we call dukkha, is actually a compass. In the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna did not tell Arjuna to ignore his pain. He said, use this pain as a compass to understand what is awry. You have in your mind an ideal. You have an attachment. You have an expectation. How they should behave, how the world should behave, what is right. That attachment and expectation is not aligning with the present moment circumstance. That is why you are suffering. But the problem is not outside. The problem is inside. And it's why he gave 700 verses, not on the best way to shoot an arrow, but on the best way to free himself of the dukkha that arises, not because of everyone outside, but because of the mismatch in my mind between what I want, what I think, how I identify, and how the world is presenting itself. I want to just conclude. I had so much more to say, but time is up. I want to just very quickly conclude with a story that I love, because as we're here in this conference and as we go through our lives learning meditation, teaching meditation, a lot of us can get kind of stuck in the technique. And we forget that the technique is just a vehicle to take us to truth. And so the story is a very quick story of 3 men who are stranded on an island. And they pray to be rescued. And they wake up one day and there's a canoe right at the edge of the island. And they're ecstatic. Oh my God, we've been saved. And they get in the canoe and they row it back to shore, back to the mainland. And a couple of weeks later, somebody sees them walking in the marketplace. And they're walking in a single file line, holding the canoe on their heads. And the person says, why are you walking with a canoe on your head? And they say, oh, this canoe, it saved our life. We were stranded on an island. And the person says, well, that's great. And why are you carrying the canoe on your head in the marketplace? And they say, oh God, this canoe, it saved our life. We were stranded on an island. The canoe was a vehicle to get them from point A to point B, to carry them across what we would call the ocean of samsara, that ocean of ignorance, of maya, of illusion. It was a vehicle. All that mattered is they could use it. Could have been a raft, it could have been jet skis, it could have been a yacht. All that matters is they were able to use it. Our meditation techniques, all that matters is that we can use them to get from where we are in suffering to freedom. So don't worry. Don't worry too much about the technique. We shouldn't fight amongst ourselves, best technique, only technique, highest technique, most advanced technique. All that matters is, can we share with people a technique, or can we use a technique that enables us to get from illusion to truth, from darkness to light, from unreality to reality. And lastly, meditation has become, quite literally, our social responsibility. It's no longer just about our spiritual practice. That's why I was so happy to come here. And it's why I was so happy to hear about this conference. Meditation is now what every one of us is required by ethics, by values, by priorities. Like if you want peace in the world, if you want sustainability in the world, if you want an end to poverty and exploitation in the world, meditation is our social responsibility. When we meditate, we move through the world at a different frequency. We act differently. We speak differently. We impact others differently. It is the most powerful way that we have to change ourselves and our planet. Thank you.